Utah stole its first buggy in 1892. I met your grandma pig slopping in 46.
Oh, every Christmas we'd visit my Uncle Fred in prison.
Hey, so glad you found us. It's America's family history show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth, on the program where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. And this segment of our show today is brought to you by LegacyTree.com. And very excited about my guest today. Somebody who's gone through an experience similar to what I went through a couple of years ago. She's a genealogist in California and took on a Jane Doe case that police had never been able to solve. Who was the woman whose body was found back in 1968? She went to work on it and solved the case. We're going to talk to Rita Hood about this amazing story coming up a little bit later on in the show in 2 segments. Plus, Tom Perry later in the show, talking preservation, talking about the Consumer Electronics Show that recently took place in Las Vegas, Nevada. He's going to talk about new technology that can apply to family history. And you know Tom, he gets pretty geeked out, so it's going to be a lot of fun coming up later in the show. In fact, we're looking forward to Roots Tech, which is happening February 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th in Salt Lake City, Utah. And we're going to do a meet and greet with Tom Perry, with David Allen Lambert from the New England Historic Genealogical Society, and myself. How are you, David, by the way?
I'm doing great, and Beantown is warming up. Not very winter-like today.
That's nice to hear. Looking forward to our meet and greets. We're going to do a couple of them. It's going to be 1 hour at my booth on Thursday from 2:30 to 3:30, and that is booth 1325 in Salt Lake City, Utah, at the Salt Palace Convention Center. And then again on Saturday from 10:15 to 11:15. So you can pretty much meet all the regulars at those times, and so we're very much looking forward to that. But right now, it's time to find out what's happening with your family histoire news. And David, what do you have today?
Our biggest news is right here in Boston, where NEHGS and American Ancestors has partnered with the Archdiocese of Boston. And Fisher, we're really excited about this. We're going to have over 10 million names searchable in a database that's covering over 150 parishes in Massachusetts from 1789 right on through to 1900, never before online.
Wow. So anybody with New England ancestry is going to benefit from this.
They really are, and a lot of times people start over here on the East Coast and then move elsewhere. And the nice thing about it, it's all for free.
Yes.
So normally at the end of the show, I talk about our free guest member user database on AmericanAncestors.org. So this time, I'm just going to tell you that it's a benefit, of course, to have that, but you can simply search these, and there are already 3 churches already on there, on CatholicRecords.AmericanAncestors.org. And you can start to search full color images. They're browsable right now, but like any project, they'll be also searchable down the road.
Wow.
And this also includes a mission church that was in Providence, Rhode Island, which I don't think we even expected would be in Boston records. My next story is DNA related. Illumina, a company which is well known for helping sequence out the human genome. Right now, it costs about $1,000 to sequence out the entire human genome for a person. They're saying in a short amount of time, it'll be as cheap as $100.
Wow. Now, this is for any individual, right?
That's true. Competition arises in the field. It makes prices go down, as we've noticed throughout the DNA companies.
Of course.
So it's a win-win situation for all of us.
Well, and the nice thing is eventually we'll be able to compare these genomes and find out which specific piece of each of us comes from which specific ancestors.
You mean eventually we'll find out we're cousins, Fisher?
We will find that eventually. We haven't done it yet, but we will.
Excellent. Well, my next story is a little sad. We talked back in October about Claire Hollingsworth, who lived out in Hong Kong. As you may remember, Claire was a centenarian, 105 years old. She recently turned, and she was the first person to report World War II.
Yeah, she was a rookie reporter from England and called in and said, well, the German tanks are rolling into Poland, and they're going, are you sure? And she says, am I sure? Listen. She held the phone out, and you could hear them all rumbling by, and there it was, the first report of the start of the war from Claire Hollingsworth, who has now passed. Unbelievable.
105, that's quite the life.
Yes.
And the stories and things that she experienced. And I know that BBC did a story on her, so it's nice to know that they captured her story. Well, one of the things in genealogy is I like to offer tips. And this one is a generic tip. And I think that everybody gets excited about a new website, may it be the one that American Ancestors is launched with Catholic Records or another commercial site out there that you maybe have a subscription to. Less is more. So when you go in there and you're plugging in your ancestor, don't put every factoid on them. Like my great-grandfather is Alexander Livingston Poor. I'm not going to put his full name in. I'll put Alexander and Poor in. And I may not even put the exact town that I know he's from and his parents, because they'll give you those things to narrow it down. Unless you're looking for a John Smith, be very vague, because then you can narrow it down by adding in date ranges. I mean, this is true with the census as well. So my tip to you is, if you get frustrated and you can't find your ancestor, look back and see how much information you tried to force through that search engine before you give up. Again, first name, last name, and a state or a country, and then add more facts if you need to narrow it down, if you get like 100 matches or so.
Unless it's a common name. You're absolutely right.
I am really excited about Roots Tech. I'm giving 3 lectures, and I'm very excited, as you mentioned, about meeting our listeners. And I really think it's wonderful that we get a lot of feedback, if it's not through Twitter or Facebook, but to actually meet our listeners is tremendous, because it put a face behind the name.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And by the way, David, what are your classes? What are you going to be teaching there?
I am giving 3 classes, one on World War I and World War II research, which is 100th anniversary coming up for World War I. I'm giving a lecture on using social media to have family reunions, how you can use things like Facebook and video cameras. And the last lecture is called Beyond the Online Gravestone, using stories to tell the last days of your ancestors.
Boy, that sounds terrific. And of course, all this is going to be at Roots Tech in Salt Lake City, Utah, February 8th through 11th. You can find out more about the classes, the schedules, everything online at rootstech.org. Thanks so much, David. And we're going to be seeing you soon.
See you soon.
All right. And coming up next, we're going to talk to Rita Hood. She's a genealogist in California. She does it like most of us do, for fun. And she broke a Jane Doe case for local authorities there. What a story. You're going to want to hear it in 2 parts, starting in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Have you saved the date? Roots Tech, the world's largest family history and technology conference, is coming up Wednesday, February 8th through Saturday, February 11th in Salt Lake City, Utah, at the Salt Palace Convention Center. Last year's conference was attended by over 28,000 people from all over the world, there to learn more about finding, sharing, and preserving the records of their families. This year's keynote speakers include actor-producer LeVar Burton, DNA expert C.C. Moore, HGTV's property brothers Drew and Jonathan Scott, and cake boss Buddy Valastro. Plus, this year's Roots Tech Expo Hall will feature over 200 exhibitors from all over the world. Sharpen your sleuthing skills with more than 200 breakout sessions, covering every level of expertise, discussing DNA, digital preservation, online tools, and much more. You're going to want to be part of Roots Tech 2017. Sign up now at rootstech.org, hosted by Family Search International.
Well, Genies, my personal family history researcher who sends me new information day and night has sent me some incredible new records and newspaper stories lately. Hi, it's Fisher, and the name of that researcher, by the way, is myheritage.com. It's the hardest working service in genealogy, looking for records of your family 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yes, even while you're sleeping. How does it work? MyHeritage uses hundreds of algorithms to match your ancestors to over 5 billion records from around the world, and with 97% accuracy. That means no more wasting time figuring out whether or not a match really is a match. I hear from listeners all the time who are shocked with how much information is accurately found and then passed along. And now MyHeritage will translate your ancestors' names into English or any other language you like from foreign records. In fact, it works with over 40 languages. No one else does this. Whether you're a beginner or seasoned researcher, you need myheritage.com.
Legacy Tree Genealogists is a proud sponsor of Extreme Genes. Based in Salt Lake City, Utah, near the world's largest family history library, we've been working with genealogists all over the globe since 2004 to track down records, find your ancestors, and the stories that bring your legacy to life. We also analyze DNA test results, help you join lineage societies, and find missing cousins or heirs to property. Legacy Tree is the recommended research partner of MyHeritage.com and is the world's highest client-rated genealogy firm. Call us toll-free at 1-800-818-1476. Call now or register online to get a free estimate. Learn from our free genealogy tips on our blog at legacytree.com/blog. Even experienced researchers can benefit from our proven and experienced staff of specialists who can bring new approaches to old problems. Legacy Tree Genealogists. We do the research. You enjoy the discoveries. legacytree.com.
And we are back. Extreme Genes, America's family history show, and extremegenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth. And you may recall last year I had that unique experience of helping find the family of a murder victim who had been lost as a missing person over 30 some odd years ago. And it's a totally unique experience that in many ways changes your life. Now we have found another individual who's had kind of a similar experience, and I'm very excited about talking to Rita Hood from Santa Clarita, California. Rita, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Looking at your story here and imagining some of the things you went through, there are a lot of similarities, but you had a very unique case because this was very old, 1968. And this wasn't a murder case, but this was a Jane Doe situation. First of all, tell us about how you found out about it and what made you want to get involved.
I was on my lunch break, and I was on Facebook just reading, the timeline. And one of my old colleagues had written a story about Jane Doe, who was found in Griffith Park in 1968. And she was wearing a wedding ring, and the wedding ring had initials, CB to EJ 9/4/1920. Well, my wedding ring has my initials and my husband's initials and our wedding date, so I knew what those initials meant.
Sure.
And then as a genealogist, I wonder if I could find this wedding date and marriage. And not knowing what marriage records were out there on Ancestry, I just started going through records,
Sure.
Just each state. I had initially thought of, okay, if the person was married in 1920, she was born around 1900. So I looked at the most common E-names in 1900.
Wow.
Came up with Elizabeth and Ethel and Edna and all the names that we really don't use today.
Good
Evelyn
thinking. Good thinking.
And started just plowing through each state's records that were available for the year 1920. California is not one of them, actually.
Okay.
Which kind of, I thought, it probably is a California resident, but maybe not.
Sure.
You don't know, right? And after going through many of the states and really not finding any other than one in Detroit, I thought, well, maybe it's not as common as I had originally thought. I believe it was 36 states I went through their marriage records. And I thought, well, let's look at this one in Detroit, Michigan. And the wedding couple was Charles Bush, who married Edna J. on September 4th, 1920 in Detroit, Michigan. Okay. And then as I'm looking at this, I thought, I wonder where they are in 1930. Maybe they moved to California. Well, they were in Detroit, again, on the 1930 census, and they had two daughters, Jacqueline and Geraldine. And my initial thought was, I wonder how accurate the Jane Doe information is on her age. Could the age be off?
Sure.
Because maybe it might be one of these two daughters. And I just, for some reason, I kept being drawn to this family. Like, it's got to be in here somewhere. I went to the 1940 census, and Charles was living with his two daughters and his wife, and he was listed as a widow. So his wife had passed away.
Okay.
And then starting in 1946, one of the daughters, Geraldine Bush, she got married to a Joseph Thomas Bradford in Detroit. And then that was in 46. In 47, she divorced him. And then in 49, married again to a Douglas McMillan. And I was looking at, the Jane Doe was between the ages of 20 and 30, and Detroit, Michigan Michigan itself does not have birth records online, so I didn't know if she had a daughter.
Sure.
I was stuck in 1949 with her marriage to Douglas McMillan. I couldn't find her after that. And I was searching, and finally in Florida, I found her dad living in Florida, and sure enough, Geraldine had gotten a divorce from Douglas McMillan in Florida, and the next month had married a gentleman named John Paul Manzo. And so just as a fluke, I went to California just to see if there was a Manzo with a child born with the mother's maiden name as Bush, which California birth records are online.
Right, that's right.
And there was a John Paul Manzo Jr. born. And so I thought, well, I now know she's in California, Geraldine Bush. I now know that she probably isn't my Jane Doe. I found her living in Fresno, like in the 80s or 90s. I kind of knew that she wasn't Jane Doe, but I thought maybe that this family might know who Jane Doe was.
Sure. So
I started looking for John Paul Manzo Jr., and I found him on Facebook. Again, went back to Facebook.
Isn't that a great tool?
And yes, it is. I just reached out to him, and I said, I am doing research on the Bush family, and I was wondering, was your mom Geraldine Bush, and were her parents Charles Bush, who married Edna J. on September 4th, 1920? And he said, oh, yeah, that's my mom, Jerry Bush, and those are my grandparents. And I have all this family information that I'd love to share, because he thought initially I was a cousin.
Sure, right.
And I said, well, is your mom still alive? And he said, no, she passed away 2 years ago. And then you get to that point in the whole story that you're wondering, well, do I say the next line? Which
right.
isn't something you really, how do you tell somebody this information?
I had a similar situation, too, because nobody would take my phone calls. So do you want to leave that message with them, that there's a loved one that's been found, that's deceased? What do you do with that? Exactly. So I just said, I'm wondering if you know what happened to Edna's ring. I said, I'm working on a Jane Doe case, and it appears that the Jane Doe is wearing your grandmother's ring. And do you know who might have it? And he said, call me. And at that point, I thought, he might know something, right? Sure.
And so not knowing John Manzo, or he was so nervous, I guess he had given me the wrong phone number. So I sent him my number, and we connected. And really the first words out of his mouth were, my sister's been missing since 1968. When was your Jane Doe found? And just put a knot in my stomach. You knew immediately, of course. Yeah. And I said, June 8th, 1968. And he says, do you know anything about her case, how was she found or anything? And so I read, the identifier about her, from NAMUS, her height, her weight, all that familiar stuff. And then they had said that she was going under the name Cheryl Miller. And he said, that's my sister. She was dating a guy by the name of Miller, last name Miller, and her name is Cheryl McMillan. And so this is on 9/11, a day that really is a day of remembering loved ones. It was a moment that will forever be a turning point in my life. I changed someone's life in that way, and not intentionally. I really thought, we pawned the ring, or I have no idea what happened to the ring, and I don't know anybody missing. I really expected that to be the response of John. Sure. And to be told that, he's been looking for his sister. He always wondered, he's 15 years younger than his sister. He always wondered what had happened to her. His mother worked for, Geraldine Bush, had worked for the Social Security office in the Social Security fraud. And so on a regular basis would run her daughter's, Cheryl's, Social Security number just to see if there was any activity. And she knew that there was no activity. Right. In her heart of hearts, she knew that she was gone. And I want to say about 2 or 3 years prior to her death, she had planted trees in her daughter's memory. She didn't know what had happened to her, but she knew that she was no longer alive. She just knew in her heart. And I told John at one point, I said, I know that you wish your mom was here on earth to hear this news. I said, but I believe your mom kind of sent me to help you heal through this, that there were angels guiding me through this. And I truly believe that. Why was I so stuck on this family that I continued to work on it? Initially, I was looking for the marriage certificate. Well, why did I go to the 1930 and 40 census? And what kept drawing me back to this family? When I was stuck with her second marriage and I couldn't find her afterwards, I actually put the family in Ancestry's tree that gives you hints.
Sure.
And they're the ones that hinted me to look in Florida, that there was a divorce in Florida. And I kept being drawn back to this family. And if you look at my family trees on Ancestry, I have probably 30 different trees because I work on people's families for fun.
Yes.
I enjoy genealogy in that way. After talking with John Paul Manzo Jr. and finding out that it was his sister, what do you do with that information at this point?
Sure.
Do I call the local sheriff? There wasn't on NAMUS on that website that tracks missing people. It tracks unidentified people. It's NAMUS. There isn't a number really to call. So I am friends with Deputy Chief for LAPD, and I called him. I called Bob, and I said, Bob, you're not going to believe this, but I think I might have just solved a Jane Doe missing person case. And, we know each other because our kids horseback ride together.
Yeah.
He doesn't know me in this way, right?
Sure.
And he said, excuse me, what? So he said, I'll have some detectives give you a call this week. And the next morning, 2 detectives were here at my office.
All right, we're going to hold it right there, and we're going to return here in 5 minutes. Detectives at your office, that doesn't always go over so well. We'll find out more about this from Rita. This segment of the show is brought to you by rootsmagic.com. And just a reminder, by the way, any part of the show that you miss or you want to catch again, you can always listen to the podcast. Just go to iTunes, iHeartRadio, or to extremegenes.com. And you can also download the free Extreme Genes podcast app through your phone store. So we got you covered. Back in 5 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Hovorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by ZapTheGrandmaGap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks. Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style of genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
And we are back. It's America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here talking to Rita Hood from Santa Clarita, California. And she had a similar experience to my thing last year, where she actually was able to identify a Jane Doe through her incredible sleuthing as a genealogist. Rita, you were just telling us now you would talk to the authorities and they were sending somebody to your office. How did your office take to this?
Well, I had some explaining to do, to say the least.
I bet you did.
So, they came in and they met with me and they wanted to see what information I had, and I had printed all of the marriage records and the census records and all of the details that led from the ring down to John Paul Manzo Jr. because I wanted them to talk to John Paul Manzo Jr. to identify her. And
right.
They were talking to the correct person if they were talking to him, and I wanted to prove that. And I couldn't identify Cheryl. Cheryl had walked through a plate glass window when she was about 10 and living in Florida, and she had several scars on her body, and they were identifiers that were never written up in the reporting that I could see online.
Isn't that a technique that police use to make sure that when somebody comes forward with information that they know what they're talking about?
Yes. Prior to DNA, that is exactly how they would have people identify their loved ones. And so the detectives went to John's home shortly after that, and then probably about 2 weeks later, they had given her a positive identification that she, in fact, was Cheryl. They had said that they had reached out to two other family members, one in Florida, a cousin in Florida that identified those same scars, and then one in Hawaii, another cousin that talked about the same scars. And so they said that they had three separate people in three different states with similar identifiers for Cheryl. When I had met with John, we started talking about Miller, the gentleman who she was hanging with. He could not remember, nor could the cousins remember his name. And John said, all I really remember was that he had two sons about my age. I think one was older, one was younger than me, but about my age.
So they were trying to track down Cheryl's boyfriend, right? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Right. And so I thought, let me see if I can find that. All I have was last name Miller, living in Los Angeles with two kids.
Impossible.
So, exactly, right? So I went through the divorce records. I figured she was found in 68. They started dating the summer of 67. Who got divorced in 67? So I went through California divorce records of 67 and 66 and 68, and I just, by the last name Miller, and I had two screens open, the divorce records and the birth record index. And so anytime they got a divorce, I would look up to see if there were any children born of that marriage.
Wow.
Because on the divorce records, it stated the mother's maiden name. And so I, sure enough, found this gentleman with two kids. And so I reached out to John on the Sunday afternoon. I said, ask your cousin, Ellen, if this Bernard Miller is the guy. I said he had two kids, Robert and Michael. And I said, don't tell her the kids' names. Just tell her Bernard Miller and see if that rings a bell with her. And he called back and he says, no, it didn't. And I said, okay, just let it sit for a couple of days and see if anything comes back.
Yeah, percolates, sure.
Later, yeah. So sure enough, the next morning he calls me and he says, she said his name is Bernie Miller and he had two kids, Bobby and Mikey. Well, this is your guy.
Wow.
I reached out to the detectives again, and I said, I found Mr. Miller. You may want to go knock on his door. And I found his address, and it actually was 9/10 of a mile from where Cheryl was living when she was found. Not where she was found, but when she was found dead. They had her address, staying at a hotel.
Wow.
And they thought her name was Cheryl Miller, right? So they thought that she might be married. She was wearing the wedding ring as if she was married. But in my genealogy, I didn't find any marriage record. But anyway, they went to this gentleman's house, and he's remarried and has other children, and knocked on his door, and the guy says, I don't know who you're talking about. And his wife comes to the door and says, what is this? And the detective said, we're looking for Bernard Miller, and we're asking your husband if he knows as Cheryl McMillan or Cheryl Miller. And she slaps her husband's shoulder and says, come on, Bernie, you remember Cheryl?
Oh.
And he says, I don't remember anything. And they had to leave it at that. And then they went and talked to the older son, who was about 7 or 8 at the time.
Sure.
And his first words out of his mouth were, "I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know her." And they said, "Well, we haven't even asked you if you do know her, and how do you know what we're here for? Did you talk to your dad?" And he says, "No, I haven't talked to my dad." And so they kind of just had to leave it alone. They asked me whether or not I knew his ex-wife's information, so of course I sent that to them. I sent her her high school picture with her maiden name, and then her Facebook page, and she was an attorney. And
look at you go! You're amazing.
They went and talked to her. They actually said this would have taken us months to actually come up with.
Yes, of course.
And I'm literally texting.
I think that's being kind. I think it would have taken a lot more than months.
Yeah. They said there's really nothing they can do. They would have to reopen an investigation and change a cause of death from, an overdose to murder.
Sure, just to investigate
and they're not
further.
Going to do that.
No.
Right.
No, that makes sense. Now, have you met John yet? Have you met the brother?
I did. It was emotional, to say the least. It was interesting. We were sitting down talking to a reporter at the time when we met, and we were finishing each other's sentences. It was almost like we were already siblings,
Yeah.
And he said, she's part of my family forever, and on Thanksgiving, he sent me a text saying, I'm so thankful for you, for what you've done for me. There's so much peace in my life now. The day after, when the detectives had showed up to my work, I had reached out to him and said, by the way, I gave him your information. They're going to probably call you. And he said, this morning was the first morning I woke up and I had just this inner peace and I knew where my sister was. He says, I can't even begin to thank you for doing what you've done.
It's a great gift.
I was taken back by it, Here I am, just a genealogist, seeing if I could find some, not really with the goal of helping a family find closure. I was just, let's see if we can find anything. And then stumble upon this bigger case, bigger event that I just didn't know I was going to be a part of. And I feel blessed to be part of that family's road to healing, that I'm a part of that, but it is kind of overwhelming in a way as well.
Well, you think about how many people are out there, many of them listening to this show right now, who are great genealogists, who can do these things, when they see the opportunity to jump in and be of service to somebody and bring some healing to them. And you have certainly done that. And I know it's got to be a great feeling for you.
It is.
So what's left with this case? Is it wrapped up? Is it done?
This case is wrapped up. They've asked me to look at a couple of other ones, just trying to find family members of individuals that are at the LA coroner's office. They will start putting together the remains of those individuals 2 years ago. So they're asking me to look at and try to find family members of those that have been unclaimed. And so I've been working on that for them just through genealogy. I told them I can really look at the people that are older. I probably won't be very good at those that are born after 1950, 1960.
Sure. Well, that would be the case for any of us. That's absolutely. Looks like
Right.
If you're not careful, you're going to have a whole new career.
Well, it's funny because that's what the CEO here said.
Well, I'm sure they're tickled with the publicity you've brought to Princess Cruises as well as a result of this.
Yes, they are.
Hey, Rita, thank you so much for your time. It's been just a delight chatting with you, and good luck with all your future genealogical endeavors.
Thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
And this segment of Extreme Genes has been brought to you by MyHeritage.com. And coming up next, we talk preservation with Tom Perry from TMCPlace.com. All geeked out about the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. He'll tell you what might be new for family history next on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Everybody needs a place of their own to plant their family tree, preferably one that no one else can mess with and only you can control. That perfect place is Roots Magic. Roots Magic has been a family history standard for years, and now Roots Magic 7 is on the market. It's an award-winning genealogical software program which makes researching, organizing, and sharing your family history easy. You can start from scratch or import data from other software or even Family Search. Roots Magic also automatically finds records relating to your ancestors from MyHeritage, Family Search, and soon Ancestry and Find My Past. You can use it to create beautiful charts, reports, and books. And have you ever thought about making your own family history website? Roots Magic can make that happen too. And of course, there are free videos, guides, and technical support to help you along. Isn't it about time you planted your family tree? Whether you're a beginning genie or experienced professional, Roots Magic is the perfect tool for you.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andMe.com, a personalized genetic service that helps you understand what your 23 pairs of chromosomes, your DNA, say about you. 23andMe.com gives you a snapshot view of your DNA with more than 60 detailed reports on your health, traits, and ancestry, plus tools to explore and compare your DNA with family and friends. 23andMe.com is the first and only genetic service available directly to you that includes reports that meet FDA standards. Here's how it works. Order your DNA kit from 23andMe.com. Provide your saliva sample from home and mail it back to a CLIA-certified lab. Then you'll be notified when your reports are ready online. You'll also receive ongoing reports as new genetic discoveries are made and as 23andMe.com is able to clear new reports through the FDA. See why more than 1 million people are experiencing their genetics with 23andMe.com. Order your DNA kit today at 23andMe.com.
Have you saved the date? Roots Tech, the world's largest family history and technology conference, is coming up Wednesday, February 8th through Saturday, February 11th in Salt Lake City, Utah at the Salt Palace Convention Center. Last year's conference was attended by over 28,000 people from all over the world, there to learn more about finding, sharing, and preserving the records of their families. This year's keynote speakers include actor-producer LeVar Burton, DNA expert C.C. Moore, HGTV's Property Brothers Drew and Jonathan Scott, and cake boss Buddy Valastro. Plus, this year's Roots Tech Expo Hall will feature over 200 exhibitors from all over the world. Sharpen your sleuthing skills with more than 200 breakout sessions, covering every level of expertise, discussing DNA, digital preservation, online tools, and much more. You're going to want to be part of Roots Tech 2017. Sign up now at rootstech.org, hosted by Family Search International.
And welcome back to America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and extremegenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth. And it is preservation time with my good friend Tom Perry from tmcplace.com. Hello, Tom.
Hello.
And this segment is brought to you by FamilySearch.org. Of course, the people who bring you Roots Tech coming up February 8th through 11th in Salt Lake City, Utah. You got to find out all about it at rootstech.org. Tom, I'm excited because I know you have been following the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas that opened the year, and there's always something in there that applies to family history, new technology. Let's get started on what you found for this year.
It is so fun. Consumer Electronics Show is one of the funnest places to go to. There's just so many cool things, and a lot of them don't even have prices on them because they're in the embryo state.
Sure.
But it's so much cooler because like 10 years ago, you look at CES, and a lot of things were what we called vaporware, means they were just vapor, and they disappeared. They never actually made it to market.
Okay.
You know, you'd wait years for certain things to come out. But these things that we saw at CES at the first of the year, these things will be out by summer. I mean, the turn time is so much fast with technology, with being able to use 3D printers to actually make prototypes. It has so shortened the pipe length from concept to actually on the shelves or on Amazon where you can order them.
It just gets faster and faster. This is so much fun. So what have you found?
Okay, now this first thing, I mean, it's crazy. We always talk about terabytes and megabytes, and I always recommend the portable hard drives are easier to back up. Well, I just about fell over. They have a thumb drive that holds 2 terabytes.
Wow. No.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
and will these things last? They're not made like the old ones that fall apart in just a couple of weeks?
Well, it's just like any kind of thumb drive. You know, these ones are higher quality, but you always want to remember, you know, the old backup rule. Anytime you have anything on a thumb drive, it's volatile memory. Even if it's the best circuitry in the world, you're going to have situations where it accidentally goes through the washing machine, or you sit on it in your back pocket, or slam it in a drawer. There's so many things that can happen to these. They're great to be able to store this this stuff on if you need to take something, if you're like a school teacher and want to work on a movie at home and don't want to email it to the school and have something happen somewhere on the network and you can't pull it up.
It's more like transport, right?
Exactly. That's a perfect thing to do, is call it a transport system. I've got wristbands. I got ones that hang on my key ring. I've got all different kinds of uses. And it's just great to be able to take it to some place, not worry about, I hope the web doesn't go down. I hope the Wi-Fi doesn't go down. I've got this program I've got to show to my class or whatever. And with a 2 terabyte thumb drive, you can put, 100 movies on it.
Right.
And there's no problem. As long as you haven't slammed it in your car door on the way out, you're fine. But like I always say, back things up. Just always have backups. I cannot emphasize how important it is to back up. We have clients, they go home, they have a fire, or their little kid gets a hold of one of their discs and chews on it. You want to make sure you back up everything. And a 2 terabyte thumb drive, like I say, it's about the size of a normal thumb, same length, same width, and everything.
Really? So it's large. It's a large physical piece.
Oh yeah. It's larger than the little wristband. It's a good description to call it a thumb drive, about the size of your thumb. But to have 2 terabytes of memory accessible like that just changes everything. If you have USB devices in the newer cars, you don't have to take all your DVDs anymore. You can take your DVDs, your stuff on your home network, download it to this flash drive, plug it in your Suburban, and your kids can pick whatever movies they want to because it's got all the ones from home.
Right. And it's all yours legally and everything else. Perfect.
It's absolutely incredible, the technology that we have right now. And as things get better, they're more stable, too. So they're not the same old thumb drives that, like you mentioned, a couple months, this thing's not going to be good. And I've had people write in and ask us, okay, I've got all my stuff backed off my thumb drive. Should I nuke it? And I say, it's always a good idea, once you're done with it, to go and erase everything, reformat it, and start all over again, because then you have less chance of artifacts causing it to crash.
Boy, all great advice, Tom. All right, we're going to hear more about what happened at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, Nevada, coming up when we return in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show. Hey, Genies, it's Fisher, and this is very exciting news from my friends at Storyworth.com. Now, during the holidays, of course, we want to get closer to our family. Well, Storyworth is a company that helps you do just that and preserves your family memories in the process. Storyworth is the easiest way to record your family stories and print them in a keepsake book. Now, once you purchase a subscription for a family member, they'll receive an email each week with a question about their life. Your storyteller just replies to the email with their story, and it's saved to your private account on Storyworth.com. And at the end of the year, their stories are printed in a hardcover book, ensuring their memories are saved for generations to come. And right now, you can take advantage of an Extreme Genes special, $20 off for the holidays. You'll get a year of stories and a book for just $59. Just go to Storyworth.com/extreme. That's Storyworth.com/extreme. Give the gift of family with Storyworth.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
When was the last time you heard your grandmother's voice or saw your family enjoying life back in the 1950s or 60s? If the reason is you haven't known what to do with your old recordings, videos, and films, here's your answer. The Multimedia Center in Salt Lake City.
We brought in a video project to the Multimedia Center, and overnight they duplicated it to DVD so we could meet our deadline.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com. 23andme.com.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andme.com, a personalized genetic service that helps you understand what your 23 pairs of chromosomes, your DNA, say about you. 23andme.com gives you a snapshot view of your DNA with more than 60 detailed reports on your health, traits, and ancestry, plus tools to explore and compare your DNA with family and friends. 23andme.com is the first and only genetic service available directly to you that includes reports that meet FDA standards. Here's how it works. Order your DNA kit from 23andme.com. Provide your saliva sample from home and mail it back to a CLIA-certified lab. Then you'll be notified when your reports are ready online. You'll also receive ongoing reports as new genetic discoveries are made and as 23andme.com is able to clear new reports through the FDA. See why more than 1 million people are experiencing their genetics with 23andme.com. Order your DNA kit today at 23andme.com.
Genie's, it's Fisher with exciting news. The Weekly Genie, the official newsletter of Extreme Genes, is here. It's your Monday morning briefing on what's happening in the world of genealogy and family history and on Extreme Genes. Get all the details of jaw-dropping stories of discovery and keep up with the latest techniques in family history research. Get to know more about your favorite Extreme Genes personalities, and it's free. Sign up for the Weekly Genie now at extremegenes.com or the Extreme Genes Facebook page. And when you do, you'll receive David Allen Lambert's Top 10 Tips for Beginning Genealogists from the Chief Genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society. Sign up today for the Weekly Genie. And we are back. It is our final segment of Extreme Genes for this week, America's Family History Show. Fisher here, the radio root sleuth. He's Tom Perry from tmcplace.com, our preservation authority. And we're talking about things from this year's Las Vegas Consumer Electronics Show, Tom, that you found out that applies, of course, to family history. What else do you have?
Exactly. And this is one thing we've talked about in the past that technology just keeps evolving, is drones. And I have people write me and say, what's drones got to do with family history? Let's take a little journey back. Used to, we only had Nikons and Canons and high-end cameras, and then we had those garbage cameras, okay?
Sure.
Photos are the best way to do anything. Videos are great too, but photos are so unique and so special. When camera phones came out, they go, what do I need a camera phone for family history? It gives you all these opportunities to shoot it, to record it, to do so many different things. And then the same people are saying things about drones. How's a drone going to help me with family history? These drones are so totally cool.
Look at you. You are totally nerding up over here.
It's like walking in the Chevy dealership and looking at the brand new Corvettes.
Yeah.
You know, it's just so cool, these drones. The things you can use them for, family reunions. You go to the cemetery, and some people, even though you take pictures, some people want to take an imprint of a headstone. So they lay the paper down, they get out their pencil, and they do an engraving. To get pictures from a drone from that perspective, you know, whether you're shooting video or some of them even have audio now, the different things you can do. It makes it so easy, so convenient, and non-obtrusive. With grandma and grandpa with the drone flying over, they're probably deaf just like me, so they can't hear the drone. And you shoot things, and these drones aren't these great, big, huge things anymore. They had one there that was about the size of a shoebox. You go and program it on your iPhone or your Android or whatever kind of smartphone you have. You can tell it to what they call leash, and it will follow you.
No.
It will totally
like
follow.
Like a pet?
Just like a puppy dog with wings. Like if you had a dragon, for instance, Pete's dragon.
A puppy dog with wings.
Exactly. It follows you anywhere. And it's so cool. They're so small. It follows you around, go through the graveyard. One thing that's cool, too, is if you're going to a very large graveyard like we were back in Chicago looking for some of our relatives, you take the drone and it can circle over some places. You can look at the video on your phone. Oh, there's the last name we're looking for. That's the part we're looking for. So it can actually help you in your search.
Scout it out.
Exactly. It's a great scout. It makes it really, really great so you can do things like that. The cameras in these things are so amazing. They are getting better and better and better. And typing in geo coordinates makes it so easy. You can go right to an exact place. Because a lot of people, when they're taking pictures now, they publish the pictures with the geo coordinates. And so you can type that into your drone and it will go right to the grave site so you know where it is. It's not like it's 16 down this way, 14 down down that way, type in the geo-coordinates, the drone will go there and wait for you.
Right, well, they could take it from billion graves, for instance.
Exactly, that's a great example.
That. Yeah, and another thing that would be really fun is your old house where you grew up. You know, you don't have to bother people about taking a tour and knock on the door. You just send your drone in because it's totally legal.
Right, as long as you're not looking in people's windows or doing anything obtrusive.
Right.
Just fly over. I've wanted the same thing. I've driven by my old house I grew up in several times, and I've just never had the guts to pull over and go knock on their door. And the neat thing was talked about earlier, it follows you around. So when it's hovering over the grave that you're looking for, you go over there, you call it down, it lands in your hand, you fold it up and put it in your pocket.
Shut up.
They are so amazing. I don't even know what to call it, so it's just absolutely crazy. I'm just so excited about them.
We're going to have to calm you down and get more because I can see you've got a long list there of stuff from Las Vegas.
I do, and we're probably not going to get to all of it, but it is just so exciting. Go on Google and type in Consumer Electronics Show 2017 and see some cool stuff.
All right, we'll get to more of it next week. Thanks for coming in, Tom.
Good to have been here.
Hey, this segment of the show has been brought to you by 23andMe.com DNA. Thanks for joining us. Thanks once again to Rita Hood for coming on and talking about how she solved a 49-year-old Jane Doe case in California. Unbelievable. If you missed any part of it, you want to catch it again, listen to the podcast at iHeartRadio, ExtremeGenes.com, or iTunes. And, of course, you can get the free podcast app as well. And also sign up for our weekly Genie newsletter at ExtremeGenes.com. Talk to you again next week. And remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.